Welcome back, miners. My name's Amber Johnston, and I'm a counselor at Student Wellbeing.
And I'm Nathan Asbell, also a counselor at Student Wellbeing, and it's time for your morning cup of joe.
So self-care is a buzzword that gets thrown around quite a bit.
You hear it everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of an ambiguous term. It's kind of tough to know what it really means. So let's talk about what it really is and how to make sure that we get enough of it.
All right.
So first of all, we have emotional energy. Emotional energy is the ability to emotionally complete tasks. And just like we have physical energy to complete activities, we need emotional energy too. So physical energy is what we need to run and jump and when we get sleepy. Emotional energy is the ability to get up and actually do stuff and complete it. And we regenerate it in many of the same ways, like eating healthy food, taking medication if we need it, sleep, and resting when we're tired. But for emotional energy, we also need things like rest and things that are fun.
Right, because sometimes after work I like to go out with my son and throw a fishing line in the water, and most of the time I don't catch anything. Every once in a while I catch a bass, but it's just getting out there in the act of taking care of myself, doing something fun. That's enjoyment, belonging with my son, engaging in that need of belongingness. Really recharges me emotionally.
Absolutely. So let's go into stress in the mind. So when something stressful happens, or you see or hear something that stresses you, immediately your endocrine system begins to respond. And within a few minutes, your brain and your body is filled with all kinds of hormones. And these hormones start increasing inflammation, they start decreasing your concentration and your ability to focus on things, they start to decrease your metabolism and your insulin response, and they start to increase your blood pressure and your pulse. And you start having increased forgetfulness, and our brain is basically placed into survival mode.
Wow, that's an awful lot.
Right. Survival mode makes it really hard to think and solve problems. And this is a time where we're trying to survive, and our body is thinks it's in danger. So it's thinking about how to live and not focused on memory or details and things like that.
It's not doing calculus. It's saying, how do I make it through this moment?
Exactly. So what happens is part of your brain stays engaged, and then the other parts of your brain have less energy to function. So they're getting less. They're being able to contribute less to what's going on.
Right. In fMRI studies, they've noted that oxygen levels will decrease in areas of the brain where there's not as much activity. And so what they do is they look for oxygen levels. And when someone's limbic system is doing what you're describing, all the oxygen and all the high blood flow is put towards that region of the brain in survival. And not as much activity is happening in the prefrontal cortex where we really do that higher level thinking and reasoning.
Right. And that's why it's so much harder to think when we're chronically stressed. And we start having problems with forgetting things, forgetting where we put our keys, or we end up putting our keys in the freezer. Like, I think we've all done that a time or two.
Yeah, or putting the milk in the cabinet and the cereal in the fridge. Yes.
Absolutely.
Guilty.
So if you guys want more information on that, you can definitely look up our podcast on emotional energy and spell slots.
Absolutely.
So how do we reverse this stress response when we get stuck in this cycle? When your emotional energy is low, you can essentially rest and de-escalate yourself in order to decrease the hormone soup that's happening in your brain and your body.
Yeah. Hormones take time to filter out and break down. And so how do you respond and act in a way that's appropriate while these hormones are flowing in your body and while your limbic system's hijacking everything? How do you do that?
Well, first you kind of got to trick your brain into realizing that, hey, I am not being chased by a tiger right now. Everything is okay, and I can breathe and relax. And that gets our limbic system to stop pumping out all those hormones. So one of the first ways we can do that is through mindfulness. And that's kind of another one of those buzzwords that's been running around lately. What mindfulness is, in very simple terms, is just being present in the moment. It's focusing on this moment, not what's happening tomorrow, not the test you have next week, not the conversation you had with your girlfriend in the car. It's what's happening right now and in this moment.
So it's being alive, awake, and aware intensely in the moment.
Absolutely. And we can do that through SIFT, which is the process of sensing using your body's senses, focusing on those, focusing on the images, the things that you can picture in your mind, you've heard of the safe place exercise, where you envision a place where you feel safe.
Yes, I use that with my clients often.
Mm-hmm. And then, or we can just imagine like the number 100 counting down to 0 and just focus on that. Just some kind of image, smell, sound, whatever that you have in your head. The next thing we can focus on is your feelings. What am I feeling right now? What are my emotions? Try to identify them. Usually it's more than one. Most people don't have a single emotion going on at a single time. It's usually 2 or 3. And then finally, the thoughts. If you have a thought, notice it, don't judge it, just let it happen and then let it go. And so that's the SIFT process. And we'll go through more of that in more detail in the mindfulness episode.
Awesome.
Next, feel-good hormones. We want to do things that stimulate the feel-good hormones. So these are combined with endorphins, and they kind of help us feel happy. And mostly we associate this with neurotransmitters like serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine.
Yeah.
So serotonin, this is just your general feel-good, happy hormone. And they generally associate this when they think about it with depression. That's why you have medication that's serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or the SSRIs.
Like fluoxetine or Prozac, Lexapro, Zoloft, medications like that.
Yes. And so what are some things that can kind of stimulate those? Obviously eating food. Turkey is a high source of tryptophan, and also from complex carbohydrates, fruits, vegetables, and legumes, and they can help stimulate some serotonin production. Exercise can stimulate serotonin production.
Can also release endorphins as well. People talk about getting high when they're running, which to me is, I'm not that kind of person. But some people really love running because they get a high off of it.
Mm-hmm. And that's absolutely, it's the combination of the serotonin and the endorphins that produce that feeling. And then SSRIs, obviously, massage and sunlight, which can work in the case of people who suffer from seasonal affective disorder, which is related to vitamin D.
Right, and I know that you can get a vitamin D level test and see if you need vitamin D, or maybe you should just spend some more time outside in the sunshine. Mm-hmm. I know it's hard when it's like -10, and I know it's hard right now when it's like 100 degrees outside. But if you can find some way to get some sunlight or some very high-powered light, like they have what's called a seasonal affect disorder light or a SAD light, mm-hmm. It gives you enough of those high-energy wavelengths that it tells your brain to release the energy, because you're in a high light area rather than it being like your brain thinking it's fall or winter, and so that also helps with seasonal affect disorder.
Right. The next neurotransmitter is oxytocin, and this is the love hormone. This is the hormone that's produced through hugging and being around other people.
You can get it through also breastfeeding, mm-hmm. and some people get it through sexual intimacy.
Right.
And so kissing, holding hands, hugging a really close friend, not necessarily sexual intimacy, but hugging a really close friend, mm-hmm. For I think it is like 20 seconds, is said to release a large amount of oxytocin. Mm-hmm. Seeing someone you really, really love and care about. So, yeah.
Well, you can also get it from group activities that don't involve touching, like playing group sports, and through singing, music. Like if you are in a band and you produce music with other people, that can actually stimulate oxytocin production.
Oh, that's a new one. I haven't heard of that one.
And decreased oxytocin levels can cause us to feel disconnected. And make it harder for us to bond with others. And the next one, or the final one, is dopamine. And this is the reward hormone. And this is the hormone we feel when we take drugs, when we take illegal drugs. And that's usually the reason why people want to take them. However, it's too much of them. And so what it ends up is kind of short circuits that system.
Right. You always hear about people doing what's called chasing the high. The first time they take it, they feel really, really good, but then they can never quite achieve that again.
Exactly.
And not only that, but over time, at some point, you feel like you need to take these illegal or illicit drugs just to feel like a human being.
Right.
Because your brain adjusts to the amount of dopamine that it's receiving. And it's one of the reasons why it becomes so difficult to get off of drugs is because your brain is now rewired in that sense. And you have to actually rewire it back to being normal and regular dopamine levels.
Right, because it's not natural for us, our bodies, to have that much dopamine in it at a time. So the body says danger, 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 and it decreases the production. So, but we can achieve dopamine through natural means on a smaller, more manageable level. And we can do that through mindfulness exercise. Studies show that meditation can increase dopamine levels naturally. Doing things that we enjoy doing that offer small rewards, like putting together a puzzle or playing a game. And big things like getting a promotion or achieving something you've been working on. And low levels of dopamine can cause low-level motivation, difficulties in sleeping, and difficulties in paying attention. So we have to participate in various things in order to get our dopamine levels up that we enjoy doing. So what are some things that we can do to increase these neurotransmitters? We can do self-care. And these are anything that you can do, that you do for you and you alone, that you don't have to do. Things that you enjoy.
So anything that's not required of you, but like something like, for example, when I play with my friends some role-playing games, or if I play a video game with my son, or watch, Stranger Things on Netflix or something like that.
Yep. So there are two basic types. We have the high energy. These are ones that have a higher energy cost, but they have more neurotransmitter reward systems from them. And those are things like going to the gym and cooking a delicious meal or learning something new. So think about going to the gym. Like when you think about going to the gym, you have to change into your gym clothes, make sure they're clean, change into them, get in the car, drive to the gym, go inside, clock in or swipe in, and then you have to work out, come back home, change your clothes back, take your shower, do all that kind of stuff. And that's all combined with that one activity. So sometimes we don't have the emotional energy to do these high energy things.
Right. Sometimes, McDonald's works. Instead of cooking a delicious meal, it's not nearly as healthy and it's not nearly as tasty, but, if that's what you have the energy to do, that's what you have the energy to do. If it's making a pot of ramen because it takes 3 minutes, and that's what you do. Better to eat than not eat.
Right. And that's where the low energy activities come in, like McDonald's or ramen or things like that. These are things that have lower neurotransmitter payout for them, but they have lower initial cost. They require less emotional energy to do initially. So like putting a puzzle, coloring a picture. And I even tell people, put your crayons in one of those little dollar pencil boxes that you can get from the dollar store, because that way you're not even having to worry about struggling to get the crayons back into the little cardboard box.
I hate those cardboard boxes. Stupid cardboard boxes.
They never go back in right, ever.
You can also cut the sharpener out of it too, so you have a little crayon sharpener. If that's your bag, you can sharpen it, cut it out, awesome. Stick it in the box with it. Yeah.
You can listen to music that makes you feel good. You can watch a TV show that you've seen before. It actually, when we watch something we've seen before, we actually get more benefit out of it because there's less anxiety produced by not knowing what happens. So if you've got a favorite show, that's an easy way to try to get additional dopamine. Taking a hot shower or a bath, taking a walk, and sometimes when your energy is super, super low, just even getting dressed can provide a benefit.
A change of some kind, even if it's you move from the bedroom to the living room, a change of scenery, sitting on the couch, you feel the cool of the couch because no one's been sitting on it for a while. It's like any of those temperature changes. Temperature change is something that's low energy, but has oftentimes a good reward with it. So just getting out of bed, getting out, cooling off for a bit, walking into another room, and if you just stand there and stare at the other room for a minute, it's a change, and your brain thrives on change. That's why sensory deprivation can be very problematic, because the brain will start to hallucinate with people who are put into sensory deprivation, because the brain craves and thrives on noticing change and change. So you can use that to your advantage if you know that's how your brain operates. Change something small. Put on a pair of socks. Take a pair of socks off. I mean, just something small and almost seemingly insignificant can have a pretty solid impact on your feelings and where you are emotionally.
Mm-hmm. And when we talk about these self-care things, they don't have to be things that are big events. Any small thing that we do throughout the day. So instead of saying I have to spend 30 minutes doing this thing that I enjoy doing and making it an obligation, what we can do is incorporate little things for ourselves, like little treats throughout the day. And I call them self-care snacks. And self-care snacks are short periods of self-care that we sprinkle through the day, and especially when we have a hard time coming up with a big block of time, like when we're really super busy. You can take a short walk, like less than 5 minutes. Go out, walk around the building.
So if I don't go to the gym, then maybe I can, if I don't have the time to go to the gym, I could just take a quick walk around the building.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe go up and down stairs a couple times.
Absolutely. You can watch a funny YouTube video. Like, I keep a list of your favorite YouTube videos that make you laugh and on your phone. And then when you have a minute, watch one of them. Drink your favorite warm beverage. Hot cocoa, tea. Use a lotion or candle that you enjoy the scent of. Do a mindfulness exercise, like a real quick one. Do deep breathing for 30 seconds. Anything that you can do in less than 5 minutes that makes you feel good. Just something really quick that you can just kind of pepper in throughout the day between tasks. So if you're studying and you're starting on one subject and then before you switch to the next subject, take a break for a second. Make a lap around the building. Drink some tea. Have that minute.
Yeah, you remind me of this thing called an Einstein window. And it's basically the time that you're most productive in a day. It's like a typically 2 to 3 hour window. And studies have shown that we have varying levels of power throughout the day. And so how do we then increase our power when we are at low energy with with these self-care snacks? So I think this is a great point that, if we take some of these self-care snacks, we can maybe alter our energy levels in times of the day when we just naturally feel less productive or lower. That's a great time to do a self-care snack, because it helps us increase our productivity, it helps us to feel good, it helps us to refocus and rehone. A lot of us are doing research here at the university, a lot of us are engaged in different classes that are really difficult, and self-care snacks can keep you going throughout the day on an emotional level.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing is variety is the key. So when we do the same things over and over again, your brain's going to be kind of like, you're going to lose that excitement and that enjoyment from it. So just make sure that you've got a variety, because there's going to be some things that you're going to get. Maybe one day you don't feel like taking a walk. Maybe it's raining. So if you don't have anything else in your bag to pull from, then you're going to be stuck. So you want to pull as many things as you can and have as many tools in your toolkit to be able to pull out when you need stuff. And if it feels like a chore, it's not really self-care. Sometimes we can go through something that we really enjoy and kind of push through it and still experience it. But if it comes to the point that you're dreading it day after day after day, then you know that it's not self-care anymore. It becomes an obligation. So maybe try something else.
All right, so if you're having to force yourself to do it every day, every time you do it, then maybe it's not good self-care. But if you're feeling maybe you're having some depression or anxiety and you push through an activity you typically get pleasure from, that could help. But otherwise, that's not day-to-day, moment-to-moment self-care snacks. The self-care snacks are just those little things. And so, I hear what you're saying. Well, Amber, thank you so much for sharing this. This has been very helpful, and I think self-care snacks is something that everyone can work on incorporating in their lives and including us therapists who sometimes we get stressed out here doing our jobs as well.
Absolutely. Thanks and have a great day.
Take care, miners.
For more information about mental health and wellness, contact Student Wellbeing at 204 Norwood Hall. And you can also give us a call at 573-341-4211.
The song Happy Days is brought to us by music from www.free-stock-music.com. You can also add and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook using our handle at S&T Wellbeing.